Listen to me carefully before you do anything else. Do not skip this. Do not tell yourself you'll come back later. I need you to stay here for a few minutes because something important is happening right now. You didn't arrive at this moment by accident. Out of everything you could be watching, your attention stopped here. That alone should tell you something. There is a reason your mind didn't move on immediately. There is a reason your heart feels slightly alert right now. This is not just another video. This is not random motivation. This is not coincidence. This moment was arranged. I know you're used to hearing voices all day long. Ads, opinions, noise, pressure, expectations. Everyone wants something from you. Everyone tells you who to be, what to chase, what to fix. But this voice is different. This voice isn't demanding anything from you. It's calling you. And it's calling you because you're standing at a point in life where staying the same will soon start costing you more than changing. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That quiet tension inside. That sense that something is off, even when nothing looks wrong on the surface. That feeling that time is moving forward, but something in your life hasn't caught up. You tried to explain it away. You told yourself you were just tired, just stressed, just bored, but deep down, you know it's more than that. You are not restless because you lack entertainment. You are restless because your spirit knows there is more. And this isn't the first time you've felt this pull. There were moments in the past when you sensed a nudge you couldn't fully explain. A thought that came out of nowhere. A discomfort that showed up in places that once felt comfortable. A strange resistance when you tried to settle for less than what your heart knew was right. That wasn't confusion. That was guidance. But back then, you hesitated. Not because you didn't care, not because you didn't believe, but because responding felt risky. Listening would have required change. Change would have required letting go. Letting go would have required trust. So you waited. You told yourself it wasn't the right time. That you needed more clarity, more stability, more certainty. And while you waited, life kept moving. Nothing collapsed. Nothing exploded. But something slowed down. Progress felt harder. Peace felt distant. Joy felt inconsistent. You wondered why things that once worked no longer did. Why effort didn't bring fulfillment. Why success didn't silence the questions inside you. It wasn't punishment. It was misalignment. There are things in life that only move when you move with them. Still, you were never abandoned. There were moments danger came close to you and quietly passed. Situations you almost entered that would have drained you. Decisions you nearly made that would have locked you into unnecessary pain. You thought you avoided them by chance. You didn't. You were protected. There were unseen battles around you. For your focus, for your future, for the direction of your life. And even when you didn't know how to fight, you were shielded. Now, something has changed. The same call that once felt gentle now feels firm. The same nudge that once whispered now presses on your heart. Not because you're in trouble, but because the season has shifted. Some opportunities are connected to timing, not desire. Some doors are not permanent. They exist for a window, not forever. You are standing in that window now, and you can feel it. Staying where you are feels heavier than it used to. Old routines feel draining instead of safe. The thought of doing nothing feels more uncomfortable than the thought of stepping forward. That is not fear. That is awareness. You are being positioned for something new, and positioning is never comfortable. It stretches you. It exposes what you've been leaning on. It forces you to decide whether you'll trust familiarity or growth. You may not feel ready. You may not feel confident. You may feel uncertain. That does not disqualify you. What disqualifies people is ignoring moments like this repeatedly until the heart grows numb. This moment is not about perfection. It's about response. You are not being asked to see the entire path. You are being asked to take the next step. Faith does not begin with answers. It begins with alignment. Right now, things are already shifting behind the scenes. You don't see it yet, but resistance you've carried is weakening. Confusion that has lingered is starting to clear. What felt blocked is preparing to move. That's why distractions feel stronger. That's why doubt sounds reasonable lately. That's why fear keeps offering delay as wisdom. But delay in a moment meant for movement always creates inner conflict. You're not imagining this tension. You're sensing that something matters, and it does. If this moment were insignificant, your spirit wouldn't be paying attention. Stay here. Stay with me a little longer. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes that this isn't ordinary. Most people click away when things get serious. They prefer noise. They prefer distraction. They prefer content that asks nothing of them. But you're still here, and that tells me something about you. You are not someone who is satisfied with shallow answers. You are not someone who can silence deep questions with surface-level comfort. That's why life has been pressing on you lately. You've noticed it, even if you haven't said it out loud. Conversations feel different. Silence feels louder. Time feels faster, yet strangely unproductive. You've done what you were supposed to do. You tried to be responsible. You tried to make the right choices. And yet, there's been this quiet sense that something essential is missing. Not something external, something internal. You're not tired because you lack rest. You're tired because you've been carrying weight you were never meant to carry alone. There are expectations you've been holding up for years, roles you stepped into without realizing how much they would demand from you, responsibilities that slowly became identities. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking whether this life still fits who you are becoming. That's not failure, that's growth. Growth often feels like discomfort before it feels like freedom. But here's where things get serious. There are moments when growth knocks softly, and there are moments when it refuses to be ignored. You are in the second kind now. You may feel pressure, but it's not coming from outside. It's coming from within. A part of you knows that continuing on autopilot will slowly drain you. A part of you knows that delaying change will not make the questions disappear. They will only get louder. That's why old distractions don't work anymore. That's why things that once brought relief now feel empty. Your soul has outgrown certain patterns, even if your mind is still trying to hold on to them. And here is a truth many people never understand. Outgrowing something doesn't mean it was wrong. It means it was right for a season that has ended. You are not being punished. You are being redirected. But redirection always requires honesty. Honesty about what you've been avoiding. Honesty about what scares you. Honesty about what you've been postponing because it felt too big to face. You've been telling yourself you need more time, but time is not what you lack. You lack alignment, and alignment is not something you wait for. It's something you choose. There is a cost to moving forward, but there is also a cost to staying still. The difference is this. The cost of growth is temporary. The cost of avoidance compounds over time. You've already felt that compounding weight, the quiet frustration, the subtle resentment, the feeling that you're capable of more, but somehow not stepping into it. That gap between who you are and who you sense you're meant to be is where tension lives. And that tension is not your enemy. It's an invitation to stop negotiating with fear, an invitation to stop waiting for permission, an invitation to stop shrinking your calling to fit your comfort. You may not see the full picture yet. That's okay. Clarity does not come before commitment. It comes because of it. Think about how many times you waited until you felt ready, only to realize later that readiness never came on its own. You didn't become ready. You became willing. And willingness is enough to start. Right now, there are things aligning that you cannot see. People you haven't met yet. Conversations that haven't happened. Opportunities that won't appear until you move. They are not activated by wishing. They are activated by obedience to what you already know. You already know what the next step is. You've known it longer than you admit. You just hoped it would go away. But it didn't, because it's tied to who you are becoming. And here's something important. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers logic. It tells you to wait until conditions are perfect, until you feel more confident, until life is less complicated. But perfect conditions never arrive for things that matter. If they did, courage would be unnecessary. The discomfort you feel now is not a warning to stop. It's a signal that you are near something meaningful. If this path were wrong, it would feel empty. Instead, it feels heavy. And heaviness is not always bad. Sometimes it's the weight of purpose settling on your shoulders. You are capable of carrying it, not because you are strong enough on your own, but because you were never meant to carry it alone. Still, nothing will change if you keep waiting for certainty. Certainty is a luxury of hindsight. Faith moves forward without it. This moment is asking something simple, but not easy. Honesty, surrender, action. Not dramatic action, not reckless action. Intentional action. One step in the direction you've been avoiding. That step will not solve everything instantly, but it will shift everything internally. And when something shifts inside you, the outside eventually follows. Stay with me, you're still here. And that matters more than you realize. Most people feel the pull and then distract themselves until it fades. You didn't. That means something inside you is already choosing honesty over comfort. Now, listen closely. The moment you stop resisting what you already know, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. The noise in your mind starts to quiet, not because all your questions are answered, but because you stop running from them. Peace doesn't come when everything is fixed. It comes when alignment begins. You've been living with a quiet inner conflict for longer than you admit. Part of you wanted to move forward. Another part of you wanted to stay safe. And every day you delayed, that tension drained a little more energy from you. That's why you've felt tired in ways sleep didn't fix. That's why motivation came and went. That's why joy felt inconsistent. You weren't broken. You were divided. But division doesn't have to be permanent. The moment you say yes internally, even before anything changes externally, unity starts to return. Your thoughts stop pulling in opposite directions. Your heart stops negotiating with fear. You stop trying to convince yourself that staying small is wisdom. You don't suddenly become fearless. You become honest. And honesty is where freedom begins. Here's something no one tells you. When you finally decide to move, resistance doesn't vanish instantly. Sometimes it actually shows up stronger at first. Doubt will try one last time. Fear will offer you familiar excuses. Old patterns will try to pull you back into what feels known. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're close. Breakthrough is rarely loud. It's often quiet and internal before it becomes visible. But once you step forward, even slightly, momentum begins to build. Doors you didn't know how to open start responding. Conversations shift. Opportunities appear without forcing. Clarity increases not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting yourself. You begin to recognize something important. You were never meant to live disconnected from purpose. You were never meant to carry everything alone. You were never meant to silence your calling just to keep peace with fear. And here's the part that changes everything. You don't have to become someone else to step into what's next. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing. Willing to trust what has been pulling at your heart. Willing to let go of what no longer fits. willing to believe that obedience opens doors effort never could. This isn't about religion. It's about relationship. It's about recognizing that you were never meant to navigate life disconnected from the one who sees the full picture. When you align your life with Christ, you don't lose yourself. You finally find yourself. The anxiety that followed you begins to loosen its grip. The pressure to prove yourself starts to fade. The constant comparison loses its power. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you're no longer facing it alone. You start to understand something deeply. Faith is not escape. Faith is grounding. It anchors you when life shakes. It steadies you when answers are delayed. It reminds you who you are when circumstances try to define you. And slowly, almost without noticing, your life begins to reflect that alignment. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. Peace becomes more consistent. Decisions become clearer. Your sense of direction sharpens. You stop asking only what feels safe and start asking what is true. And that truth changes you. If you've felt seen during this message, it's not accidental. If something inside you feels stirred, it's not imagination. You were meant to hear this. Right now, you don't need to promise anything. You don't need to perform. You don't need to impress anyone. Just respond honestly. If your heart is ready to trust Christ with your direction, your future, your questions, then let that response be simple and real. Say it quietly where you are. Or type it in the comments if you feel led. Amen. Not as a ritual, as a decision. A decision to stop running. A decision to stop delaying. A decision to align your life with the one who holds every answer you've been searching for. If this message spoke to you, don't ignore it. Engage with it. Leave a comment. Share what you felt. Stay connected. Because this is not the end of something. It's the beginning. And you don't have to walk it alone.